name is Eva, and today I will talk a little bit on my personal story, but then also, as Ines mentioned, on activism and advocacy work that resulted from that. And before we go into more details, I just wanted to give a disclaimer that we usually do in our events. I use word fact a lot, and if there are people who are not familiar with this approach yet, it is used in non-judgmental and simply descriptive way as a strategy to reduce the harms that this word does to people, as body shaming and other ways that people use it in, to hurt others. So the more we use it, the more normal it becomes, and the less people are suffering from hate speech and body shaming and things related to this word. I hope you are all okay with that. Yes, so now I go. Yes, I will start with my story. And before I also go into much more detail, I just want you to raise your hand or give some kind of sign if you have heard something about fat acceptance, fat phobia, weight bias, or any of these terms connected to, or body liberation that I also had on previous slide. Just raise your hand. So just so I know. Okay. A few people know. Okay, so I'll know when I talk about things further. So let's start with my own story. Unsurprisingly, I have been fat all of my life. I started getting fat when I was about 3 years old, and it started because of some things happening in family, some bad events and depression on my parents' side, and other things that affected me very much. But then, that me getting fat was not the bad part. The bad part was what happened afterwards when I started going to school and I got bullied and these things just continued throughout my life. The last time I heard some comments on the street about my weight was maybe a few weeks ago, and these things just happen all the time. And of course, it caused me lots of trauma and lots of damage and depression and lots of bad things. And somehow it has become a big part of my identity. And yes, and then after a long time thinking about these things and working on myself, somehow I found this approach that is called fat acceptance movement, because I was in Barcelona. There was a lecture by an activist that lives in Spain, but she's from Uruguay. And in that moment, just so many things clicked in my mind. Just the ways she was telling about fat acceptance movement and injustice in society, about the fact that fat is one of things that people are most scared of, or getting fat, and other things just made me feel, okay, the thing that I have created as part of my identity and somehow felt very bad most of my life. Somehow this is not of my own fault. Lots of it is something that is very deep and very common in the surrounding society. And exactly that moment in that lecture, all of my previous experience with youth work and non-formal education and non-governmental organizations and everything I have done just clicked together, and I realized that I cannot imagine doing anything else in my life besides advocating for this cause, because exactly in that moment when I heard all of these facts and things about society, I understood that one of the first times in my life when I actually felt normal. So I understood the power of this knowledge, and I realized that I have this unique power to bring it to others. Uh, so it didn't happen in a day. A while later, I decided to start working on a bit more organized level. So I renamed my organization and I started working on body liberation movement in Europe together with very nice people. Also, Eva is a part of that. And yes, to work on a bit more systemic level together with other people, uh, but also parallelly to these projects and more, standard things like trainings and so on. I, of course, was educating myself about the fat acceptance movement and body liberation, and realized, especially when I was reading book, mini advertisement break, fat activism book, when I was reading it, that yeah, there are so many more things that each of us can do besides organizing projects and I don't know, giving trainings and other things which are very common in youth work. Actually takes very little, even just me today using the word fat in a neutral way is a part of activism. And from that, somehow my thoughts developed. And I thought, okay, how do I do this work and what things I could do in my own country? And I was like, okay, I will work on body and fat acceptance and la la la. But then I realized, I don't have words. In Latvian, there are no terms that I can use to talk about this, and I have only English terms, and well, it's a bit complicated, And then I understood, okay, one of the things I have to do is figure out a way how to introduce these terms in Latvian language, and I knew that, I mean, I'm just one one silly girl with lots of enthusiasm but no credibility, and I can imagine what terms I want, but it doesn't mean that suddenly people will accept them as the official terms. So I contacted the national what's the name, Commission for Terminology, and I started conversations with them about having these few, at least in the beginning, terms that I could use later on in my work. And so, long story short, was it last year? Last year in the autumn, maybe actually a year ago, they finally accepted these terms like that you can see on the screen. And the big victory was using fat in these words instead of corpulence or other synonyms that people use for the word fat. Then later on, I was like, okay, I have words now, but I don't know anything that's happening in Latvia, and I don't know what are people experiencing. I know my experience. I know it's a problem, but again, it's just me. How are people going to believe that everything I claim to be as a problem is an actual problem in society? So no, that's yeah. Yes, that's not no. So I submitted a project where I was saying, okay, I want to do this research and find out what are people experiencing and what are the problems and how are they feeling and so on. It came back as resigned, like they didn't accept the project, uh, saying you use a lot of facts from USA and UK, but we are not really sure if it's very relevant to Latvia. And then the other mom was like, yes, I was submitting a project to find that out. But that moment I got really, angry and emotional. And then I decided to launch the research nonetheless. So it started in Latvia, and soon people from other countries are like, yeah, I want to do that too. So now it has grown to 9 different languages, and it is ongoing. We are still gathering data, but if you follow us on social media in the Body Liberation Network or also in Flourish NGO regarding Latvia, then from time to time we publish some information, and this actually has been very helpful for project applications and other things. And then very recently, this is a picture that doesn't say very much on my work, but recently members of my organization, they are nutritionists, and they work with people with eating disorders, but also are believers of this body neutral approach. And they received the message that government is developing action plan for tackling obesity in Latvia in 2025-2029. And in that moment, we looked at the document, and it didn't have a single word about weight stigma or eating disorders or any, related terms that affect actually people in bigger sizes a lot, and can be a reason for obesity, as they call it. So we were like, okay, let's give our suggestions, and wrote in like 2 weeks, we wrote 9 pages of different suggestions for this particular action plan. And last week we got the answer that we don't know yet in what extent, but weight stigma will be included in this government document. So in whole Latvia, they will be. For us, it's good that they even if they just mention weight stigma in all of this document a few times, it's a huge achievement in terms of the medical discrimination and other things that happen, especially connected to medical staff. So yes, we are super proud and happy for that. And the last thing, I'll try to be short. As I said, there are many forms of activism, and my one of my favorite forms of activism is just being myself. And I mean, there are lots of these colorful quotes saying "be yourself" and "embrace yourself" and so on. But for me, it's not about that. For me, it's more like it's a deeper process, in the sense that since I started realizing how much power has knowledge about the inequalities in society, I realized that this knowledge and just learning, and through this learning, accepting myself, truly accepting myself independently from anything that anybody says and how the society is built, that can lead to more authentic existence in the society, and being able to be myself in my fat body as an act of activism. Because as Eva said, as Monica said, you don't see lots of diversity of bodies. And if I can authentically show up and be myself, and show that also fat people have different life stories, they're not always miserable and unhappy and sick, that just being myself is an act of activism, which is one of things I also want to encourage to you all. Just embrace your differences, but also empower any young people that you work with to uh, yes, to be to somehow celebrate their differences so they can appear in this world more courageously, safely, and everything else. But yes, and I think that is it. Thank you.